Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to the last session of today in our Specialty Masters program. We have really terrific guests with us, and I think you're going to really appreciate this session. We are focused on careers. Yesterday, as you know, we were focused more on admissions. What does it take to get in? What kind of students are the schools looking for? And you can actually go back on our Facebook page and soon on our YouTube channel to see those sessions on demand. But now, live, we're going to talk about careers. Let me introduce all of our panelists and the programs that we're going to talk about. From Indiana Kelley, we have Bipin Prabhakar. He is the head of the Information Systems Master's degree at Indiana Kelley. Bipin and I also did a fireside chat, which you can access as well, and to get a lot more nitty-gritty information about that program. We also have from Purdue Krannert, Chris Luby, the associate director there, who is going to talk about business analytics and information management. And we have from UCLA Anderson, Larry Braben, who is the Director of Career Services, and is going to talk about their business analytics program. Obviously, business analytics is one of the hottest growth areas there is today. We have from Emory Goizueta Business School in Atlanta, and look at that beautiful picture behind her. It's fake, but it looks really good. I have to say, I wish I had one of those behind me. And look at that fall weather. Beautiful. Renee Bourbeau, Director of Operations and MSBA at the Graduate Career Management Center at Goizueta. We're going to talk about the business analytics program at Goizueta as well. And then we have from Notre Dame, Mendoza, College of Business, Lisa Michaels, the Associate Director of Graduate Career Development, who's going to talk about business analytics as well, and finance masters. Well, welcome everybody. Let's talk a little bit about why you think these master's programs are proving to be so popular among graduate students and employers. Chris, why don't you start off?
Sure, thanks, John. So our business analytics and information management program, time and time again, when I talk with students, they come with an average 3 years of experience. And what they tell me is they say, I've hit a point in my career where I realize that the skills I have are just not enough. And so they're really looking for a program where they can upskill themselves to new levels to take advantage of the latest innovations that are out there. And so this becomes the focal point of their entire curriculum. And it's really specialized just to giving those skills. And so our employers share that same kind of feedback. The students they need to fill their demand really bring the latest and greatest, and they have a really quick return on investment for how they're able to bring in new hires that can really turn around the data needs that they're trying to fill.
That's great. Lisa, what's your perspective on that question?
Thank you so much, John. So at Notre Dame, our specialized master's degree programs tend to be more early careerist. So typically 0 to 2 years of work experience coming off of your undergraduate degree. I believe that non-MBA specialized master programs are a wonderful opportunity for students to kind of discover their career goals. And in addition, start to develop new skills that are in demand now and also in the future by employers across the broad spectrum. Basically, students take a deep dive into various areas in note MSBA as well as MSF and finance. And the skill sets that they're going to learn is basically leadership, strategic thinking, teamwork, analytical, as well as the sort of specific skills that go with the specified program as well.
Right. And Renee, why do you think the students are flocking to these programs?
Well, it's great to be here with everyone today, and Goizueta really is this beautiful. I appreciate the shout out for our campus here. In our case, we're similar to Lisa's comments in Notre Dame, where we really do think this is an experience for the students to have an experiential specialty master's It prepares them, in the case of MSBA, to become business data scientists and hit the ground running. There's a lower barrier to entry for the work requirements versus MBA programs, and students can apply to our Master of Science in Business Analytics and our new Master of Analytical Finance straight out of their undergraduate programs with little to no work experience.
Yeah, and that's another point I want to emphasize. Many of these are what so-called pre-experience programs. Some people come into them and they have a few years of experience, and there are some programs that require a little bit more experience. But generally, I think that there are many undergraduates out there who come out of school, maybe during college, they didn't know quite what they really wanted to do or what they were best suited for. And they majored like me in political science and English. And in today's world, companies aren't as willing as they once were to invest in people and say, okay, we're going to spend 6 months training you. They want to hire someone who can contribute from day one. And all of these programs make that happen, which is why I think they're so valuable. Now, Bipin, you have a very technical program, and one that I would be afraid to apply to, because I think you almost have to be a brainiac to apply to your program. Am I right or am I wrong?
You don't have to be a brainiac. And we do bring in students from all walks of life. And it is interesting, John, that you mentioned your background, because I had a student yesterday in my office who was an English major, has an interview today with one of the biggest technology firms in the country. And the role is actually a technology communications role. And the student is like, this looks like it's tailor-made for me, because what I'm going to do is look at what the technology organization within this company is doing in terms of innovations to support the business, and get out there and help the business understand how they can leverage technology to do their work better. Right? So while the program itself is very technical, our students on the outcome side from a career standpoint go all the way from looking at it purely from a strategy standpoint, all the way to actually implementing systems and getting their hands dirty, so to speak, and everything else in between. So in many ways, if you look at what you mentioned earlier, where the undergraduate is driven by a set of interests that they picked up in high school, and high schools don't necessarily tend to emphasize many of the things that we do in a business school. They come here and they find out that in undergrad, they have built a very strong foundation. However, they don't have any domain expertise. And to me, the specialized master's programs give them that domain expertise, right? So while an English major or a political science major, I'll pick on you, John, there, right? But if you look at those degrees, they are really, really good at critical thinking, at writing, at conveying information. So there is a lot of skill set that is there. And then we say, okay, now let's take the skill set and apply it to studying a business problem, figuring out a technology-based solution, and then how do you go about implementing it and getting the people to use it to create business value. So we can take pretty much anybody. And the one thing that I tell our incoming students is the thing that I cannot create is passion, right? Everything else can be taught. And so we take a very different approach, right? So bring your foundation, we'll take care of the rest, but you don't need to be passionate about the idea that technology can be used for good and it can actually create a lot of value for a business.
So there you go. Even poets are welcome to become quants in your program.
Absolutely.
Now, Larry, business analytics is extremely hot. I wonder if you might just step back for our audience and describe what business analytics is, number one, why it's such a fast-growing field, because I know placement rates in business analytics programs are through the roof.
True. Well, thanks, John. So business analytics, like in real simple terms, is the ability to translate data into actionable insights that can be used across any kind of organization, any function inside of an organization, from marketing to operations to strategy. So I think that's why we're seeing such an explosion, because every business can benefit from leveraging analytics. So students like ours are extremely valuable, and in a sense, they can become industry agnostic. They can gain more, they can gain knowledge and experience based on their interests, but they can really apply what they're learning towards practically any area. So there's a lot of flexibility there. I think that helps them out a lot on the marketplace.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that, you know, outside of a handful of companies that have figured out how to use massive sets of data for a competitive advantage, and we're talking obviously Google, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, companies like that, the vast majority of companies haven't figured it out and badly need the help to harness these massive sets of data that they're gathering and use them for effective decision making. And that's really at the core of why so many companies are trying to expand their teams in this area, which means there's a lot of opportunity out there for people who want to do this. And also, I think that this is a great starting ground, because in the future, I kind of see people who are really either technically proficient or can really make a contribution in this area are likely to get a lot of promotional opportunities in the future to other roles.
Yeah,
Now, Harry, so talk a little bit about what are the advantages of doing a specialized master's degree in business as opposed to doing a more general thing like a master's in management among the specialty degree portfolios or an MBA?
So was that to me, back to me first?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think, and I'd like to speak mainly from the perspective of a master's or a specialty master's within a business school. So that advantage, and I think I'd share that with some of my colleagues, there are numerous advantages there, because you are picking up these highly marketable, highly in-demand skill sets on the technical side. But if your program is doing, I think, what it should, which is what we're trying to do at Anderson, we are wrapping that in business acumen, in the understanding of not just, we're not, our goal is not just to grow people who can do great, build good models and good algorithms, but it's to understand business context. And so that they can, and to be able to be great communicators and to be able to translate and tell the data stories to anybody within, anybody in leadership within their organization who may need to rely on those insights. So if you are specializing in particularly an environment like a top business school that is giving you exposure to the professors and instructors and industry experts who are coming in as well, that we bring in, who are able to give business context to what you are learning, then you are getting the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's really true. Chris, what kind of jobs do people who graduate from your business analytics or your information management programs get? What are the titles they assume? What are the companies that they go for? And what do they actually do in those early jobs?
Sure. Great question. So when we talk about the jobs, we look at it 3 buckets typically. So about 40% of our students go on to be business or data analysts. And so these are roles where, high number of our students are entering in, and they're going to be working with the different models that are created internally to provide some of those insights to the different areas to take action with the business. We have another group that about 30% that will take on consulting roles. They'll either be with large consulting firms or will be working with some boutique firms where they can really focus on analytics and deliver it to those companies that have these needs they haven't figured out yet. And then we have about 20 to 25% that end up in data scientist roles. And they really want to focus on the models themselves, and they want to really drive the conversations within the company around how they're doing the different analytics and building the models that can then be used in the different areas of the business. So the titles tend to follow along those lines. We have business intelligence engineers, we have analytics or operations analysts, we have marketing analysts across all the different functions, and then we have senior consultants and we have associate consultants. So a lot of the titles match up with those 3 main buckets as when they get into the different roles.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Lisa, at Notre Dame, obviously, business analytics will be similar to what we just heard from Chris and from Larry, but I wonder your master's in finance, what kind of jobs do they get and where do they go from that program?
Yeah, absolutely. I do just want to sort of build a little bit on what Chris said really quickly about the MSBA program, if that's okay. Again, as Notre Dame is sort of an early careerist MSBA program, our students, again, have a diverse background from different undergrads, and generally similar to Chris, the common outcome goals are basically in banking, financial services, consulting, and tech. The roles are generally analysts and consulting roles. We do have students that pursue data scientist roles, but those are generally students with pretty strong technical roles. So just sort of want to clarify that on the early 0 to 2 years of experience coming out of your undergrad. But on the MSF side, the Master of Science in Finance, our graduates typically pursue opportunities in banking, corporate finance, real estate, and financial services. Again, a lot of our undergrads do have a business undergrad, but not always. And again, they're just sort of building on and getting sort of that niche financial background, digging a little bit deeper into it for employers.
Typically, those are analyst jobs at the banks as well. I know that if you have an MBA, you would go into an associate role. That's the difference. These are earlier roles. Just before the associate level, right?
Correct. Again, 0 to 2 years of work experience. Some students are pivoting. I have a student who pivoted from Purdue hospitality in the MSF program, which is fantastic as well. So kind of did a little bit of hospitality and decided they had a calling with numbers. And so they're in the MSF program. So lots of versatility for sure.
Given the technical nature of your program, I wonder what kind of titles your graduates assume when they get their diplomas.
Yeah, so much like the other programs, we are probably even broader in that within the context of information systems, we have students that can go work in digital transformation. We have students who actually go work out in the business analytics area because we have a business intelligence and analytics concentration within the MSIS program. And then we also do enterprise security and risk management. So along this, I would say a good number of our students do go up out into consulting related careers. The big four, the big technology consulting firms, Accenture or IBM. We see that we're also seeing an emergence of smaller boutique consulting firms that are making a big push for our students. Then, of course, we have the corporate roles where they're primarily going into a business analyst, data analyst, sometimes like a financial systems analyst kind of role. And the new thing that we are seeing over the last 2-3 years is a big push into the technology firms where they're going into roles which are essentially defined as solution engineers. And the solution engineering roles are captive consulting at a company like an Amazon AWS, where they're working directly with the clients to define cloud architectures and cloud-based solutions. Now, with that said, we still see that broad spectrum of roles ranging from very strategic to very technical, and that's driven by the students' undergraduate program, right? So they come in with a computer science degree, then adding that business technology layer on top allows them to pivot much more to the technology side, but still be able to talk to the business. And somebody that's coming in from a management background might like to stay more in the technology strategy space.
Right, makes sense. Renee, what does the job market look like for your graduates in 2021? And what did it look like last year?
That's a great question. We're happy to report we're about 15% or better over the class of 2020, who ultimately reached 100% job acceptance rate, but we are trending about 15% or better from the same time last year. At graduation, we were at 71% of the class that had offers and 67% who had accepted. About 3 months after graduation, we were at 94% who had offers and 85% who had accepted. And then we're still closing out, we still have a few weeks left before that 6-month marker for specialty masters. But very proud to announce we reached 100% of our class who had received offers as of last week. and 97% who have accepted. So the job market is, as you've mentioned many times, it's very hot for business analytics. And of course, being in Atlanta, we have seen an influx in technology companies coming to the area, and they're very interested in our students.
Those are great numbers. They really are. And I will say, on the MBA side, Emory consistently posts among the best numbers for the MBA programs as well. So it's no surprise that you would do that well in business analytics, which is super hot. And I don't think it's going to cool off anytime soon. Larry, do you suspect that this is going to remain a hot market moving forward?
I think it will. I see that particularly in areas that have been playing some catch up, like entertainment, for example. The pandemic had a huge effect, as everybody knows, in a conversion to streaming. Right? And so we have the entertainment companies based here in Los Angeles that are hiring hundreds of data scientists, to try and understand, to try, make sense of all the data that they're collecting through the streaming services that they pushed forward during the pandemic. I mean, areas like that entertainment is playing catch up. Other legacy industries are also playing catch up. So I think it's going to be we're going to be on a steep upward curve for a good while.
And what are your job stats like for your business analytics degree?
Yeah, they're very similar to Renee's, really. We always hit 100% accepting offers by 6 months out. We were impacted a little bit by the pandemic for a couple of years ago. The main blip that we also had was that we had some students who were stranded in China during the pandemic, some of our international students. So they all actually got great jobs in China, but it impacts the salary totals a little bit. But we have seen basically all of our international students, of which we have about 50-60% international students, they all target jobs here in the US, and they typically all get jobs here in the US. So our North American salary during the pandemic actually increased by about 10% on average to starting salary about $109,000, which was very strong, which is another reason that people come to specialty master's programs, because of the ROI and the short length of time in program and also on market to get that kind of return.
And I imagine that it's a STEM designated degree, which
Yes.
also accounts for the high percentage of international students. And for those of you who may not have heard of what a STEM designated degree is, it gives you 3 years of OPT, which is optional practical training, so that when you graduate, you have, if you go into a STEM job, you will have 3 years with a work visa. You don't have to worry. That gives you 3 shots at the H-1B visa as well. So it's a very attractive option for a lot of international students. Chris, can you talk a little bit about the job prospects for both your information management and business analytics degrees?
Sure. Yeah. And our program as well is also a STEM designated program, and we have seen a lot of students as well as employers take advantage of those additional years. Really a strong benefit for students to be able, and many of our international students, which we have a high percentage of, they voice that. They say, I want to work for my full OPT, and then I want to return home. I want to be the future, Steve Jobs in India. They want to get back and they want to take advantage of hot market back in their home country. But so our program that we graduated in May of 2021, right now, we're having a little bit of a downturn from previous year. So last year, May of 2020, we finished at 97% with a 97,000 salary average. And this year we're finishing up, but we're at 85%. And so the salaries are a little bit lower, but we had a much smaller program, which, when we have such a heavy international enrollment, some of the limitations for students to be able to travel to attend our school just really impacted us as far as program size. So, but we are still in touch with students, getting them to the finish line to make sure that, they're able to get into the job market as soon as possible, to make sure that they can take advantage of these great skills that they've got with them. And we're hopeful. We have a group that started in January, which our typical schedule runs June to May. But we brought in a group in January before a travel ban was instituted, and they will finish this December. We have high expectations for this group to get back to our upper 90, 100% employment rate when they complete their 6 months up.
And actually, both you and Larry raised a good point about compensation. Given the international makeup of some of these programs and the fact that many of the graduates may go back to their home nations, there are a lot of distortions in the data. I mean, there are cost of living distortions depending on where you actually place your students. Obviously, you place your students in some high cost areas, the salaries tend to be higher than they are in other places that are more affordable. If you have more students that go back to India, the salary rates are nothing like they are in the US or in Europe. So you can expect, when you look at averages or medians, to look at slightly different numbers. So you really gotta ask the question that's relevant for you as an individual about where you're gonna go and where you're coming from. And I think that data is more relevant to you than the overall average or median of a graduating class. Lisa, what do you think about the expectations for your next graduating class next year?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess in one word, it's like everyone else sort of said, strong. Strong hiring going on across the board, really in all the specialized master programs, but specifically business analytics as well as finance. Our numbers, at least on outcome numbers at 6 months, are trending kind of along with all the other universities. I think we wrapped up at 6 months at 97%. Our salary was $73,000, but do keep in mind to compare apples to apples. These are first-time jobs. And then we do have a bit of that international differential as well, just like all the other universities. Our Master of Science in Finance program, we're in our first year, so I don't have historical data to draw on. But anecdotally, our students are coming out of the gate strong. The banks and corporate finance, consulting, multiple offers and strong salaries as well. So I guess to echo everyone else, it's a strong hiring time right now.
Great. And Vipin, I know that employers can't get enough of your grads. Give us a little sense of the job trends for your graduates this past year and the compensation levels. Vipin, did you hear that question?
No, I did not. I had a temporary glitch here.
Oh, no problem. Let me do it again. So I wonder, I said that your employers can't get enough of your graduates. So tell me how they're faring in the market this past year, and at what compensation levels are they landing jobs?
So, so last year it was a challenge for us as well as many of them, but it actually, with our May 21 graduates, we ended up the year in a much better place than I was actually expecting. By graduation time, we were at about 85, 86%. Students, where normally we would be at about 93, 94% with accepted offers, and 90 days out, we were at about 93% or so. And part of it was last year with people kind of scattering after graduation, it was a little harder to track the numbers. Compensation-wise, because we place much more into business-oriented roles than technology roles, our compensation numbers tend to be lower because most of a good number of our students actually come from US institutions. So about 80% of our class have US undergraduate degrees and over 60% are US citizens. So interestingly enough, compared to international students who are concerned about the ability to pay back their student loans and the compensation, our US students tend to be much more focused on a long-term career trajectory. And because most of them are walking away from a full-time offer to come into grad school in the first place, and they are looking for a longer-term payoff. So compensation numbers have been averaging about 85,000 or so. But what's been interesting coming into this year is, it's almost like I can't keep them on the shelf. I've got students walking around, and remember, we are in week 8 of fall semester. I've got students walking around with 3 or 4 offers, and the big challenge now is like, help me pick. I've got all of these; they're all wonderful, and where do I go? So that's been interesting conversations. And another piece of data, which, John, I think you'll appreciate, is we've always had women candidates making more money than the men, which I don't know if I've ever mentioned that to you. But
No,
this
you
year,
have- what do you
Yeah.
account for that?
I don't know. I think we just have better women candidates. They show better, they listen better, they study better. Not to say that our men are worse, but we've actually seen that over time. But this year, that gap actually seems to be widening. And I'm looking at the numbers between May and December 21. The women are making more than $5,000 more than the men.
It may be a scarcity issue, because I'm imagining that there are fewer women in this field than men. Because, I imagine you also get a lot of engineers who take your degree.
We have about 35-36% women in the program. So at least within our program, yes, in the field, you're absolutely right. There is a scarcity of candidates, but within the program, we have been pretty fortunate in having a good diverse mix of candidates.
Now, in general management programs like an MBA, there's always an internship, and I wonder if there are internships in these specialty master's programs that are usually a year in length, and I don't know if there's enough time, or if you have experiential learning opportunities that sort of make up for what an internship would be, giving someone real-world work experience. Bipin, since we're on you, do your students have interns?
So we actually require an internship for all of our students, and we still maintain a 1-year program for about 70% of them. Now, we are able to do that because with our own undergraduate students, we admit them as early as the junior year, and for Kelley students, we'll go down to the sophomore year, so that they basically work it out as a 5-year program. So for the students who plan early or apply early or are admitted early, and not just from Indiana University, as long as they are coming in with a background in business and technology, our model is that they would graduate from their undergraduate program in May. They would actually intern the summer as an incoming student, come into the program and finish up in 2 semesters. For students who have to do our summer jumpstart program, which is what we use for all of our poets in the group, to get them to be ready for the information systems program, they will need to intern as part of the grad program, and that stretches out the timeline to 1.5 years or 2 years.
Right. And I know internships are often a prelude to a full-time job offer. So the conversion rates on those hopefully are fairly high.
They're very good, and they're also paid, right? So that although it takes a little longer to finish the degree, the ones who do the internship end up coming out with a degree that cost them less.
Yeah, right. And Lisa, do you have internships for your business analytics and your Master's of Finance programs?
We actually do not have internships due to the nature. Our business analytics program is 9 months. Or 9 to 10 months, and our finance program is pretty intensive, but it starts in June and goes to the following May, so that's 11 months. But what we do provide is experiential learning within the program. Specifically in the MSBA program, they have a capstone project that they work on throughout the year, where they gain real-world experience working with a company, partnering with them on a project. So while it's not a formal internship, it's classified as a capstone project, you would retain or gain the same type of skill sets, or similar at least.
Yeah, and I think the important thing from an assignment like that is you get to talk about the nitty-gritty of what you've done with a real company in a real situation during those interviews, which contributes considerably to your ability to land a good job. Renee, how about at Emory?
We, once again, similar to Lisa, we have a capstone program. It's the entire spring semester. They get to work on a real business problem with a real client. We partner with like FedEx is one of our founding sponsors, Macy's, Home Depot, Cox Automotive, Truist. And so to your point about forming the relationships, they get to talk about the project in interviews. And we also have a dual degree population of BBA, MSBAs, who that population does have an opportunity to have an internship following the 10-month MSBA program, because typically they would need to come back the following fall to wrap up their BBA. And so we work with them as well to have a data science internship opportunity.
Great. And Larry, I'm assuming it's the same story at UCLA in your data analytics program. You have a capstone of some kind?
It's a bit of a different structure. We have a 15-month program actually, and it was designed very specifically to lead students through 3 quarters of classroom experience and then take an entire summer in the middle of our program to apply what they've been learning in the classroom. And so that internship can be up to about 3 months experience for them. And then they have 1 more quarter to do before they graduate. We have a December graduation. And in that final quarter, they have the option either to do a capstone project, which is similar to what my colleagues have been describing, or an additional internship, which gives students advantages to either continue the internship that they had in the summer with the company or try out a different company or industry. And obviously the job market implications for that kind of experience are many, and there are a lot of advantages there.
What kind of companies basically, employ your students as interns?
We range from big tech, such as your Amazons and your Facebooks and your Googles and your Apples and Microsofts, to entertainment, to consumer products, to finance and fintech, to healthcare, to sports, just really across the board. As we were mentioning at the beginning, analytics is industry agnostic. So it's a lot of it is based on our students, on the interests that our students bring in, and what we expose them to in terms of all the different industry practitioners that we bring in to meet with them during the course of the program.
Great. And Chris, what's the internship picture like at Purdue? Are you using internships in those 2 specialty master's programs, or are you in fact doing capstone experiential learning projects?
Yeah, thanks, John. And Larry, you made a great point to talk about the different industry, the broad industry perspectives. And so we use a industry practicum as our model in the final semester for students. And our ability to help the students identify their industry that they're most interested in is really a big decider in which project they can become a part of. And so, this is all taking on that passion that students come into the program with. And they're able to kind of continue that with a corporate partner in their final semester. So we don't have an internship. We do have some students, a very small number, if they want to take additional focused courses, they can extend their program in either supply chain or finance, and they can build on that and also gain that internship summer. But it's very, very minimally used at this point because we put all of our effort into the industry practicum at this stage.
Great. One other aspect of all this is that even though students are studying a specific area, in business schools, there's a lot of attention paid to career development, getting a career going, learning how to network, knowing how to do an interview well. There's coaching, there's mentoring, and all of that is very common in an MBA program, of course. But I'm also assuming that it's common in your programs as well, so that a student not only learns the ins and outs of the given discipline they're studying in your programs, but they're also learning how to get themselves a great job. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So our students, I mentioned the June start time, we reach out to them in April or May, and many being virtual or in person if they're here. And we begin that coaching journey before they ever set foot on our campus. And that part of that is a legacy of the office that serves the students. It's also one that has served MBA students for many years as well. And we've always kind of tried to say, how do we make sure that we give them things beyond what they think they need? One of the big success stories of our program is many of our students are training to take the industry practicum projects and present them at major international conferences. We have some students at the Informs conference this week that have been presenting their projects. And so through that journey, they have to upskill in communication. They have to be able to tell their story through data. They have to be able to leverage the different audiences and the communication styles, because I'm not technical in nature, and I have to be able to understand how it will impact the business, because when they get too deep, it may go over my head as well as others. So that has always been our thought process, is to make sure that they receive the same attention and care that we've always provided in our traditional business coaching.
And Renee, I'm thinking that you can't get those kind of great placement numbers without having paid attention all during the program to career development.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, really, to echo what my colleagues have said here, the students are exposed to all of the programming languages that they're going to need, but they're also exposed to how to package that information and deliver it to stakeholders in a way that someone even who is not technical in nature can understand. And that's very valuable on the classroom instruction side. From a career management perspective, MSBA Career Services is now under the umbrella of Graduate Career Management Center. So we work hand in hand with our employer relations team and also with our partners on the MBA side for best practices. I deliver a professional development course to the MSBA students. There's 8 in-person sessions, and we start in the summer before classes even start to try to get them started on the right foot. We leverage our alumni network with mentorship opportunities. We have one-on-one coaching, and then we have a course in Canvas where they can kind of, it's self-paced, but they probably have more than they would ever care to admit in terms of resources for career services. But really, we partner with the student. We meet them where they're at, try to take them where they want to go.
Okay, and to me, it's always worth saying this, and I always say it, and I want to say it again, because maybe some of you out there are tuning into this particular webinar for the first time. The big difference between a business school and every other school on a university campus is that the job doesn't end when the dean hands you your degree on the commencement stage. The job of a business school ends when you land the job. And that's different from every other department, every other college, on every university campus. And it's the secret sauce of why business school is so successful. End of lecture. Lisa, I want you to tell us what a prospective student should be doing before knowing that the Notre Dame programs are right for him or her.
What they should be doing right now.
Offer some advice to a prospective applicant.
All right. Well, my biggest piece of advice for any prospective applicant, as well as my current students and alumni, is an acronym, ABN, always be networking. Networking helps you to get the first job. It helps you to get your second. It helps you to get your third. I think networking skills, spending time in your master's program, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, really helps students throughout their entire professional career. In business analytics and finance, yes, you're getting that key skill set, right? That's going to set you up for those jobs. But to really excel and accelerate your career, take the time to build those relationships.
Okay, and one way to network is to go on LinkedIn and search on people who have business analytics degrees from Notre Dame and write to them and say, hey, what'd you think about the program? Did you really like it? What were the pluses? What were the things that stood out for you? And if you ask this question too, if you were the dean for a day, what would you change? Because that's the way you get really cool information. All right, Lisa, thank you. And Bipin, what's your advice?
I think for many of our incoming students, what I tell them is play the long game. right? And that kind of comes from the fact that we pull a lot of our students from the undergraduate program in Kelley and from computer science or informatics school, and they're all perfectly capable of coming in to get a job. So I tell them, getting that specialized master's degree, particularly as at an early stage in your career, is all about playing the long game, right? You are getting a depth of skills that's going to help you differentiate the day you land at your first job, which is going to hopefully get you promoted before most of your peers the first time around, and then get you promoted before your peers the next time around, and just keep going, right? And someday be a very successful alum that comes back to recruit more of the young people that we produce.
And donate.
Yeah.
Larry, what's your advice to a prospective student in your business analytics program?
Well, my advice to a prospective student would be twofold. One is understand analytics, right? Why do you care about this? Why are you passionate about this? We have about 1,500 applicants every year for about 70 spaces. So the people who are standing out can tell the story as to why they are turned on by this field, why they have to do it. And telling the story is part of what gets you into a program like ours, because we're not just looking for great technicians, we're looking for great communicators, great connectors, because of what we talked about earlier in terms of what their roles are going to be in these businesses. So work on your communication skills, tell the story as to why data is important to you. And finally, this is part two, do some projects, get some kind of hands-on experience. If you are still an undergrad, about half of our students are coming straight from undergrad, take a class, do a project, do something analytics oriented for a friend's startup, anything that can get you talking about this field and understanding it better. And the other half of our students are coming from industry with up to 5-7 years experience, the same thing. See if you can orient yourself to parts of your organization that are practicing analytics, data science, understand what they're doing, see if you can get involved in some way so that you can, again, better tell the story as to why this is urgent for you.
Yeah, and I think the stat that you put out there, Larry, which is basically 20 applicants for every seat in the classroom that you have, suggests that you better know why you want to major in this subject. And you better have maybe had something on your resume that indicates your interest and backs it up. Chris, your final words of advice?
Yeah, a lot of what I would say echoes what Bipin said. Really understand there's a lot of great schools out there with a lot of terrific programs, but this is an investment in your future. And so make sure that the values, the components, the structure all align with where you want to end up and how you want to get there, because there's so many great options, many of which are here today with me. And so for the students that's out there trying to decide, really talk to people. What are you interested in? What's really important to you, and what's going to drive the next 30, 40 years of your life? And it's okay. Be honest with yourself about what you want and go get it, because it's your life and you need to be making those decisions and take control. So good luck to all those students out there.
Indeed, take control of your own destiny. Renee, you have the last words today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, John. My advice would be to stay curious. This is changing so rapidly. You can make a career out of pretty much any one of these topics. And so, to Larry's point, learn as much as you can, explore, but stay curious, keep learning, even when you've maybe mastered one subject, learn something new, always be learning, and certainly try not to compare yourself to others. Everybody's on their own journey.
That's so true. Hey, listen, Renee, thank you so much. Larry, Chris, Lisa, and Vipin. Thanks for all your insights. I think we had a really great session. I could spend a couple of hours with you guys without any question, just asking one thing after another, because there's so much more to this. And for all of you out there, I hope that we at least enlightened you, gave you a little sense of what these journeys are like and what the career outcomes are, what you can expect from them. I think these are no-brainer investments. You know, you might look at the price tag of some of these programs and say, oh my goodness. But let me just tell you, the return on investment is there. And these are experiences that will really change your life. So this is John Burnham with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.